Has the Toyota Supra been canceled? Well, starting all the way back in 1979 with the Celica Supra, the Supra has really been one of the main ambassadors of affordable Japanese sports cars to America. And it really hit its cultural zeitgeist with the fourth generation Supra, which really came at the era of Japanese and the whole tuner sports car culture. And now in its fifth generation, the A90 Supra, which is a partnership between BMW and Toyota, was launched initially to some mixed reviews, but 4 years later, I've been owning this car and it still turns more heads and I get more comments than any other car I've ever owned. But it is now at a crossroads. My name is Eric and I hope you're enjoying this new microphone over here, and we're at our favorite Japanese rumor website. It's Best Car Web. Now, you can take it with a grain of salt or not. I think they're sometimes accurate, sometimes not. And they're saying that the Toyota 6th generation Supra will be reborn as an EV, and it'll appear in 2025 with a front engine, rear drive, and a pseudo manual transmission, or that's a question. Now, before we get into it, let me just summarize this article. They're saying that the Supra, number one, is going to be going full EV as early as 2025. And the second thing is that they're saying is that the Supra is going to go out with a blast, a huge ice departure, big crowd wave, high horsepower manual transmission version. We're going to talk about both of these. Now, Best Car Web claims that they have insider information. They claim that they have somebody on the inside of Toyota. That's what they've sort of always claimed. They're always very cagey about it, obviously trying not to reveal their sources. Clearly, they have some connection to Toyota and the Japanese car industry. So I'm going to give this some credibility. Let's just read the headline here. Toyota continues to release surprising new models and scoop information. And then in 2025, information jumped in that the Supra will appear as an EV. And actually, what's below this photograph here, I think, is probably one of the most interesting parts of this. Of course, this is a render. There is eyewitness information that the EV Supra is designed like a midship sports car. It looks like it will be rear-wheel drive with 450 to 500 PS, that's very close to horsepower, and a two-seater full-fledged sports car. So it looks like it's going to be like a mid-engine car, at least that's the design, but we're talking about somewhere over 500 horsepower in the configuration that they're talking about here. Now, Toyota has a new president that just stepped in. It's Koji Sato. He was previously the head over at Lexus. And there's been a lot of discussion about what Toyota is going to do with the whole battery electric vehicle transition. Akio Toyoda was pretty famously, I wouldn't say anti-EV, but sort of go slow. And so now we have Koji Sato at the helm. There's indications that he's going to accelerate the battery electrification transition. The GR Supra is an electric vehicle and not a hybrid, but an EV, and begins to spin a new history. That is what Toyota has decided to do. They're saying that it's hard to predict what this new EV platform will be, but likely to be an improved version of the eTNGA architecture. Now, actually, I disagree with that, because this eTNGA platform, there is discussion that Toyota is going to, that it hasn't really been evolving fast enough and they're not competitive with the rest of the industry. And so that eTNGA might just end its run and they're developing something new, which would put Toyota, of course, a couple years behind everybody else. But maybe it sounds like there's going to be a new battery electric platform that is probably going to replace eTNGA. So I'm not really too sure about this assertion here that it's going to be based on eTNGA, which is, of course, primarily front-wheel drive biased. But here's what I think is pretty relevant. They say, I know it will be reborn as an EV, but I have not yet received detailed information on what it is to be like. But here is what is currently known. Rear-wheel drive, design reminiscent of a midship sports car. It will appear as the 6th generation Supra. Let me know your thoughts on this render. I'm going to put it up full screen. I think it's interesting, but I think this is highly speculative too. Since it calls itself a Supra, it should be middle class or higher sports car, and that's where the Supra has always been positioned. It seems to be that the latest technology will be generously introduced. Now, here is what I think is interesting. First of all, the fact that it is being developed as a rear-wheel drive car shows that Toyota is seriously considering this Supra as the first of a new era of EVs. I think they mean sports car EVs. Front-wheel drive and four-wheel drive may be perceived as just changing the name to slap it on a Supra, but there's no need to worry about that. And I agree with that. I think if Toyota made it all-wheel drive, that's probably just not in keeping with the history of the Supra. And as you might be aware, Toyota has been developing this artificial manual transmission for use in electric vehicles, which simulates shifting. They've had a couple patents out on that. Interestingly, Toyota is developing a pseudo manual transmission for the EV. In fact, there is no transmission that is not necessary, and you can get the feeling like driving a manual transmission. It is a system that we would like the EV Supra to adopt, because by all means, it is a technology that can only be used if there is a desire. I don't know what to think. I have not driven a manual transmission EV. Let me know your thoughts. Also, from the information, the eyewitness information, it looks like it's going to be a mid-engine sports car, and you can also infer that it is not a GT car, but a full-fledged two-seater sports car. This would be more in line with the GR86, actually. In other words, it is a model that follows the flow of the current GR Supra, and in this respect, they say it is well qualified to inherit the Supra name. Now, there's been some rumors that the current generation Supra is going to go out with a bang, that they're going to have the S58 engine from BMW, the 3-liter inline turbo that is currently found in the BMW M3 and the M4 and now in the M2 as well. And it is going to be a high horsepower variant that's going to be putting out as much as 543 horsepower, which of course is what we get in the M4 CSL. This is a very, very real possibility with a manual transmission, and I really can't say much more than that, but consider it likely. Now, could Toyota make the 6th generation Supra a hybrid? I think it is possible. Now, of course, if you remember Tetsuya Tada, who is now retired, he was the chief engineer at Toyota, and he headed up the whole Supra project, and of course the 86. He famously said that the next generation Supra is not going to be hybrid powered, but of course he is now retired. But what we do have is a couple cars that have been successfully launched as hybrids. Of course, we have the Acura NSX, which is now going into its next generation, and we have the brand new E-Ray Corvette. So I think it's still a possibility. But what I think is interesting here, this interview just came out a couple days ago, and you can see that Toyota's Superstar engineer says Toyota went too far in hydrogen, but still doesn't believe in an EV-only future. I think it's a pretty interesting article. I can summarize this in another story if you want me to, just let me know. But essentially what he's saying, and this is just his opinion, this is not official Toyota opinion, that Toyota has gone a little bit too far with the hydrogen technology, and the fact that it's sort of not aligned, the strategy is not aligned with what the world is doing right now in terms of battery electrics. Could we see a Supra powered by e-fuel? Again, it's possible, but I don't think Toyota is particularly on board with this. In the EU, they have drafted a rule which will now allow combustion engine ICE-powered cars to continue past 2035, but only if they use e-fuels, which are carbon neutral. They're trying to hammer out the details, but the EU is on board with this. I think Germany is still hammering it out, so it's sort of good news. I was just at the launch of the Prius Prime, so look for that to drop on Wednesday. And then also the Corolla Cross Hybrid. I also got to drive that at a launch a couple days ago. That's going to be out on Thursday, so a pretty Toyota heavy week. Thanks for watching. Click this video right over here.